Hey guys, introspection here. So today I'm going to make the second part in my video series to help you guys purchase your first car. And yes, there is going to be a third part, and there may even be a fourth part. That is how much information I have to give you guys on this topic. The first thing I handle, get handle, because how a car handles. Never mind, I thought it was funny. Anyways, the first thing I'm going to talk about is the mileage on a car. Now granted, there's a good chance that you have a decent amount of car knowledge, in which case you'll know how much is a lot or how much is a little. But if you're like me, prior to actually learning about cars, there's a good chance your gauge is horrific. Me, prior to being educated about this kind of thing, thought that 10,000 was actually a large number. Now, if you were like me back then, or if you are like me back then, you're probably thinking to yourself, man, really 10,000 isn't a large number? That sounds like a large number. That's like 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros. And that's like 1, 2, 3, 5. It's 5 digits. And we're already up to 1 comma. So I'm going to give you guys a gauge as to how much is a lot and how much is generally very little. Generally speaking, from 0 to 30 is a very unused car. There's a good chance that cars within this range are really new cars, but not always. It just means that cars haven't really been driven that often. Between 30,000 and 100,000 is the average you'll find it. It's probably what you're going to find most cars in, especially if it's been made within the past decade or so. Granted, there's the exception of when you're purchasing a car that's really, really, really old, in which case, of course, since it's been around longer, you might exceed 100,000 miles. But I would not recommend it as your first car, and it's probably not the car you were looking at anyways. Anything above 100,000 miles is a little excessive. Now, one thing that's very important to point out is that yes, the mileage definitely does play a factor in how much wear and tear there is on the engine and the car itself, but it's not the determining factor. There are so many other factors that could possibly determine how well or bad the car runs. For instance, if somebody sticks a car in the garage after 5,000 miles and leaves it there for 2 decades, then believe it or not, leaving the car doing nothing is actually really bad for the engine. So that car might be in worse condition than another car that was the same time, same model, same everything, but just driven regularly. Or if somebody's doing stuff crazy like burnouts, donuts, and drifts, all things that put a major strain on the car and the engine, you can easily find even older cars in way better condition than cars that have been put through that kind of abuse, even if it's under even 1,000 miles. Or you could have people who really baby their cars. I know several people like this. People who take care of their cars, who do everything they can. They clean the engine, they check the tire pressure, they regularly change the oil, they never miss an appointment to rotate the tires. Everything that you could possibly do to maintain the longevity of any given car. You can find people who take care of cars like this, and their cars will be in better condition than even new cars under like 20,000 miles. Even if their car exceeds 100,000 miles. So, again, yes, you definitely need to consider mileage when purchasing a car, but it is definitely not the only thing to consider. The other thing I'm going to tell you guys is about bolts. Don't worry, I'm not going to go over every nook and cranny of an engine. I'm pretty sure I'd be driving everybody get crazy. Get it? Driving everybody crazy. Do you get it? Because you drive it. Never mind, I thought it was funny. Anyways. So, what I am actually going to do is tell you guys a piece of advice that actually was given to me by the dealerships. Now, yes, I know that the first thing you're probably thinking is, oh my gosh, he's selling out. He was going to rip us off. He's going to give us advice that would actually cost more money than what... No, guys, come on. Just hear me out. It's going to make a lot of sense when you hear me out. So, when you go and look at your car that you're thinking about buying, make sure you have the dealer pop open the hood. Now, unless you're a mechanic or an engineer, you're probably not going to know what any of the things that you're looking at actually do. What I want you to focus on is the color of the bolts. If the color of the bolts matches the interior of the engine, or it's designed the way the rest of the bolts are, and it's all the same color or the same series of colors, then there's a good chance that that car has not been in any front-end major collisions and hasn't had anything repaired or replaced. Because generally speaking, not always, but generally speaking, when the car is built, the color of the bolts is going to match the rest of the interior. And when it's repaired, whatever mechanic is repairing it is probably just going to use his own bolts. In which case, they're probably really not going to care what color it is, unless you explicitly ask them, and even then they're probably not going to take too much concern in it because they're mechanics, not artists. In which case, yeah, chances are the bolts are going to be different colored than the rest of the interior. The other thing you can check for is the paint. Run your hand along where the interior ends and the paint begins, or just the edge of the hood if the paint wraps around the entire interior. Go ahead and run your hand along that edge, and if there's any bumps, then there's a good chance that that part of the car had to be repainted, in which case there's a good chance it was in some sort of collision or suffered some sort of damage. Granted, not always. Some people will just repaint their car, and so long as they do it properly, it won't really affect the longevity of the car. But most people won't do that unless they really have to, and most people don't have to unless it's been in some sort of damage or collision. The other thing that is a bit of a telltale is the tires. Now granted, if it's over 100,000 miles, then the tires might be replaced regardless of how you drive it, but if it's a reasonable mileage, like 50,000, 40,000, 30,000, somewhere around that area, then the car should still have the original tires. And this is important because if you drive properly and you don't do burnouts or drifts or donuts, and even if you just do minor things like don't just slam on the brakes, accelerate very slow, well not very, very slowly, but decently slowly, not excessively, you regularly take care of the car, this is generally reflected in the tires. If the tires show significant wear after very little mileage or the tires needed to be replaced, there's a good chance that that's a sign that somebody wasn't really taking care of how they drive their car. Of course, this isn't always the case. Somebody could just have left something in the middle of the road and as such would have popped their tires, and thus, so long as the tires were immediately replaced, won't really affect the longevity of the car. But generally speaking, it is a cause of somebody improperly driving and wearing down the actual tires. The other thing I want to tell you guys about is Keller Blue Books. Now, Keller Blue Books, if you're watching, I'm not trying to steal your info or anything like that. I really like you guys, so please don't sue me. But if you're watching this and you want to do a collaboration, I'm totally down with that. But back to this. Keller Blue Books is actually a company or a website that also makes videos going in extreme detail with every individual car when it first comes out, and its exterior, interior features, acceleration, so on and so forth, and compares it to previous models, previous competitors, current competitors, so on, all that kind of stuff. And a lot of the sources I have for the kinds of cars that I've researched, I got from them. But the thing that they're primarily known for, or at least I think they're primarily known for, is their website. And the thing that makes their website so special is the fact that you can enter the make, the model, the year, and the mileage, and the condition it's in, whether it's good, bad, or great, and it'll tell you how much the car is actually worth. This way, you can go to a dealership and not get ripped off, or especially more likely a private owner, depending on who you go to, and somebody who will try to sell you a $2,000 car for $10,000. Even if you don't know that much, go to Keller Blue Books. It'll tell you how much any given car is worth. Now, another thing I need to talk to you about is dealerships themselves. There are two primary kinds, not official names, but this is how the automotive community I find usually refers to these kind of things. First, there's a reputable dealership. Generally speaking, you can just look at these things and they'll seem kind of like clean, not like sanitary clean, but you can tell it's got kind of like that professional look. And you'll have a very, very well-known name. And if you're not really into cars and you don't know the name, again, you can probably tell just by looking at it. But if you can't, you can probably easily find somebody who does know about dealerships that has some sort of experience in purchasing a car that could probably easily tell you. And then there are what are affectionately known as lemon lots. Now, don't be discouraged from actually purchasing a car from here. You can find really good cars for really good deals in lemon lots. But there's one thing that you really need to consider before you decide which one you go to. Warranty. See, if you break down after you purchase it and you have no warranty, that means you're paying for the taxes, depending on where you live, and for the loan, depending on whether you purchased one or not, And even though you're paying all that, chances are that if you're purchasing a used car or watching this video, then you're probably not going for a car, or you probably don't have a excessive amount of money to spend on a car, in which case you're probably not going to be able to pay for the for the repairs, and thus you will continue paying for the car and not being able to use it. So it's very important that you get warranty, especially when you get your first car, but even afterwards you probably want warranty. So if you go to a lemon lot, usually, or at least from my experience, from the research I've done, they won't really provide you with a warranty, in which case you can get a separate warranty to apply to the car. I highly recommend this, because even if sometimes something will go wrong after you purchase it, or sometimes something will be wrong, and there's no way for you to really know until you've actually had it for a little while, in which case you're going to want the warranty. For instance, like if you're driving on a cold day, you turn on the heat, you test out the car, it might not occur to you to test out the AC. Oh, but make sure you try to test out everything to include the functions you might not necessarily need. But things like that, you want the warranty out, because after you purchase it, that way you can have it repaired usually within 2 or 3 days, depending on where you send it, what warranty you have, and what time of the year it is. Now, if you can't purchase a separate warranty, then you should go to a reputable dealership. These places will usually, especially with certified cars, they'll usually provide you with a warranty. Even if it's just a 1 or 2 year one, you should definitely take it over a lemon lot offer, because again, you're not really going to be able to pay for any repairs, chances are, because you're already buying a used car. You probably don't have the money to purchase repairs that you would need. And generally speaking, within 1 or 2 years, if you buy it off of the parking lot and there's something wrong with it, the most that it'll go on for with something wrong with it is, on average, or like my experience has been like 1 or 2 years, give or take. But yeah, at least get that warranty, and even after either warranty expires, it's probably best to go ahead and purchase another warranty on your car. For the exact same reason, something may go wrong, in which case it's peace of mind that you have it there, and if something goes wrong, you can send it in 2 or 3 days, they'll give it back to you all fixed up and ready to go. Well guys, that is it for this video today. If you have any more advice on things people should consider when purchasing their car, or just want to tell me how great of a job I did, certainly don't mind that either, go ahead and leave it in the comment section down below. Otherwise, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that bell button to catch my video in the next 2 weeks. Until then, hear nothing and listen to all. Bye guys.